ADA requirements for signage. Some of the requirements for ADA-compliant signage are easy to assess. For example, the requirement that characters be all uppercase and in a sans serif font are easy to evaluate with just the eye. The height of the sign, with the baseline of the lowest line of text being at least 48 inches above the ground, and the baseline of the highest row of letters being no more than 60 inches above the ground, can be easily measured with a tape measure. Some of the other requirements, however, especially those related to the dimensions and spacing of the letters, can be very difficult to assess. Consider, letters on signs can be anywhere from 5/8 of an inch to 2 inches tall. This can be easily measured with a ruler or a measuring tape. However, the width of the standard letters, such as O or D, must be between 55% and 110% of the height of the letter, whatever that should happen to be. The spacing between adjacent letters within a word must be at least 1/8 of an inch and no more than 60% of the height of the font, whatever that should happen to be. The stroke width of the letters, which is the thickness of the lines of the letters, must be 15% of the height of the letter. There is no range of acceptable widths. Note that this means that fonts must not only be sans serif, they cannot have tapered lines. If the sign has more than one row of words, the spacing of the words measured from the bottom of the letters of one row to the bottom of the letters of the next row is required to be at least 135% of the height of the font, and not more than 170% of the height of the font. All of these proportions can be calculated, but these calculations can be intimidating to anyone who is not very comfortable with mathematics. Enter the ADA CAT Font Guide. The ADA CAT Font Guide was developed to assist in the assessment of the characters of signs that must meet the ADA requirements. It will assist in assessing the height and width of letters, the stroke width of letters, the spacing between letters, and the spacing between lines on a sign. This is the ADA CAT Font Guide. It is made from clear plastic so that the sign can be seen through while it is in use. This does make it somewhat difficult to demonstrate, however. The font guide has two parts, which are joined by a pivot. This pivot will, at first, seem a bit stiff, but that is intentional, so that it doesn't lose its settings while in use. This is the arm of the font guide. In line with the pivot, there is a line representing the baseline of the guide. There is also a shaded area extending from 5/8 of an inch above the pivot to 2 inches above the pivot. This area is used to assess the acceptable height of a font. There is also a line running up the center of the arm. This line is used in setting the font guide. This is the protractor portion of the font guide. Near the bottom of the protractor component, you will see a shaded area with 3 windows. The lowest of these windows is the stroke width window. It will be used to assess the thickness of the lines of a sign to assure that it meets the ADA requirements. The middle window of the protractor, here, is used to assess the width of fonts to assure that they meet the ADA requirements. Near the top of this window is a horizontal line. This is the protractor reference line. It is used in setting the font guide. The top window of the protractor is the line spacing window. This window is used to assess the spacing between the lines of letters on signs with more than a single row of letters. These are the key features of the font guide. In other videos in this series, we will see how to set the font guide for any font in the allowed range, and how to use the guide to measure the other features of the sign.